Hi, and welcome to the Magnificent Misfits podcast, where we intimately explore the lives of successful misfits, delving beyond their achievements to reveal the human stories behind their triumphs. A misfit is anyone who has taken on a journey different from their peers who come from a similar background and who have dared to walk on an undiscovered path. Their stories and journey will hopefully inspire other misfits to carve their own paths. Join me, Sid, as I meet and interact with these amazing people to discuss their life stories. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Magnificent Misfits podcast. I'm really excited to do this episode today, not just because of a very interesting guest I have with me, who you'll hear about, but also because he's a very close friend of mine who I've known for many years. My guest today is Olive Sen. So I'll give you a quick intro of who Olive is, and then we'll of course talk a lot more about, our different stuff today. So you'll hear. Yeah, so Olive is the head of product or chief product officer at BetterPlace. BetterPlace is an HR SaaS solution to manage frontline workers, everything from hiring, onboarding, verification to upskilling. And he's, of course, played a key role in building the product out over the past few years. In his prior avatar, Olive was director of product at OLX and was also director of strategy and growth. Olive has an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from IIT Kharagpur and now lives in Bangalore. In his free time, Olive likes to read about wealth management, product management. He plays sports, tennis, swimming, and he also, of course, takes out a lot of time to advise startup founders. He's very passionate about the startup ecosystem. So that's him. About my equation and relationship with Olive, well, it goes back a few years. We went to college together. To be honest, I didn't know him that well when we were in college. We got to know each other a little later. We both started our careers together at Renault Nissan as automotive engineers, and we were also flatmates. It's a quirky thing, but the thing we bonded over the most, and for some reason, our memories of 90s Bollywood music and songs seems to be impeccable. And we can do like an entire separate podcast on that. And maybe someday we will. But that's one quirky thing that, we share. And the second thing is, of course, but we both come from left-leaning states, and we kind of have our discussions and conversations about the left and communism and capitalism. I would say, ironically, both of us are now more capitalist in our thinking and outlook than, let's say, the places we come from. Me from Kerala and Olive from Bengal. Olive, welcome to the Magnificent Misfits podcast, and thank you for doing this, man.
Yeah, excited to be here. I think, the name itself really sounds very interesting. I think we'll talk over through it, but yeah, very excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise, the same for me. And what we'll do, Olive, is just for the benefit of the listeners, right? If you could do a quick intro, that would be good to kickstart the show and give context to the listeners.
Absolutely. I think you did a fantastic job, talking about me and again, then our connection and everything. But, I'll talk a little bit about myself, where I grew up. So I grew up in Calcutta. And in fact, I have memories of 80s Calcutta and 90s Calcutta and, how it was growing up over there. Then I went to one of the better schools in Calcutta. I was lucky that I went to South Point High School, and we were a very academic focused institution. The things that got me excited in those days were mathematics, Olympiads, and all those kind of things. Really love, studying for the sake of studying and competing. And then, incidentally, I managed to get into IIT Kharagpur. And I think I really didn't know that I wanted to be an engineer, but I loved solving problems in physics, chemistry, mathematics, etc. And then I joined KGP as a mechanical engineer, and Siddharth is also, my department mate. Both of us are from mechanical engineering. So after that, it's been almost now close to 15 years that that I've been working. So I've been working for almost 15 years now across different organizations. And I started my career with Renault Nissan, which is an automobile major, as an R&D engineer. But then I moved on into something which I felt was more closer to my heart, which was, data crunching, problem solving, analytics. And I spent almost 2.5 years at a company called ZS Associates, which is a pharma consulting, sales and marketing consulting firm based in US and Europe. Most of my clients at that point of time that I was working with were very large companies like Novartis, Novo Nordisk,
Hmm.
AstraZeneca, and so on, right? And but then I wanted to do something in India. I felt that India was going through a transformation, and people in my network were starting up in the analytics space. So I wanted to join, that bandwagon of people who wanted to do something in India for India. And I joined a company called Decision Point, and I worked with very large conglomerates like Coca-Cola. I worked with GSK and Barbecue Nation, and we did a lot of analytical problem solving for them to build their strategy, their go-to-market strategy, their key account strategy, pricing analytics, etc. So a lot of interesting things we did back then. After that, I moved into a product company called OLX. I think most of you would be knowing OLX. It's a classifieds platform in India and quite a few global markets as well. I spent almost 7.5 years over there across. I started with product analytics and I moved into product management. I moved into strategy growth, and eventually I became one of the senior leaders at OLX when I left OLX. And last 2.5 years, I've been building a frontline worker focused HRMS platform, which is called BetterPlace. And that's been my professional journey. Yeah. So
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, so I mean, I'll get to some more stuff about, your growing up years, etc. But if you could also, before we move to that, what does your day at work look like right now at Better Place? What do you do? Maybe a quick brief on, how your day looks like.
Yeah, I think, I mean, my work has changed significantly from, now that I am a people manager and a people leader, so to say. So a lot of my work actually is involved around managing people, prioritizing tasks for them, doing a lot of meetings with different stakeholders. It could be internal stakeholders like the CEO, the founder, and also external stakeholders could be investors, customers, or, industry leaders to understand, where in which direction certain things are moving, etc. And then again, my managing my team, right? So motivating them, navigating them through different uncertainties, and finally, whatever little time that is left, that's where I work and do something, to add to what Better Place is trying to achieve.
So, congrats on all the amazing stuff you've been up to and you're doing now. One of the reasons I reached out to you is because I kind of know your life and story and your career and things like that. But we want to hear from you. Why do you think you are a misfit?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know where you came from this this term that you identified, misfit. I think at many points of my life, I think somewhere, I don't know whether it is many of us or it is at least me, who felt that, hey, am I a misfit? I think, and sometimes I would think that yes, that is probably true. And why I thought so? I think one of the things when I was thinking about this, about this podcast that you told me, and I got to know that you're doing this today. So I was trying to think, right, that why did I consider myself a misfit, or do I still think about myself as a misfit? I think one of the things which I think was uh, coming to my mind very clearly is that a lot of things that I did,
Hmm.
I was doing it fundamentally, out of the joy of doing it, and not because I was trying to pursue a particular sort of a proven path to success, or a building a certain type of a career, or chasing money, as I as you would call it. uh, so when I was thinking about how my career started, and many people, I think, from from the background that we are coming from, which is we are coming from very, I mean, I come from a very average middle income family. I mean, it was obviously it makes a lot of sense for people to chase money and build wealth over time. But that's something that I didn't really excite me back in college days or when I was sort of starting off my career. I felt that I needed to do something which I fundamentally enjoyed my time, and then out of which something exciting comes up, something good happens, and some I make something out of it, career or whatever. But that would be great. But my priority, I think, was almost choosing to focus on enjoying my time at work, and then I could make if I could make a profession out of it. So my fundamental skills, which were more on the analytical side, that's where I sort of pursued, and eventually I landed up where I am today. But at least what sometimes I feel is probably I did the right thing for myself.
Okay, excellent. Now I'm going to pick up on a couple of things you mentioned. Okay, so you mentioned you feel you're a misfit because you looked at career differently from most people, let's say, or from our peer group. Let
Yeah.
me say our because I assume we are similar in terms of peer group. So you thought differently about a career, you thought differently about money, you thought differently about things you want to do. You did things that you like to do or love to do as opposed to what is expected of you to do. Let me kind of take you back in time a little bit. When is the first time you realize that your thinking is different from the people around you?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I have been slightly different from, even during my school days as well. But I think the first time when it really hit me was when I did my internship. I did my internship incidentally in Bangalore itself, and I was in the ITC tobacco factory. And
Okay.
ITC was one of the most, as all of us know, it's a very reputed company and, very excellent sort of a place to start a career.
Yeah. And it
But
was one of the most coveted internships I remember back in
yeah,
college.
yeah, and but when I got the opportunity and I went in over there and started working, I really enjoyed my work over there. But I really found that I'm quite different at the way I look at things from the other interns who had come, uh, and
Hmm.
and that is when it first sort of struck me. Just to iterate on why I felt so a little bit. Uh, Everyone wanted to just get a sort of a pre-placement offer out of that internship, and
Hmm.
they wanted to do something so that they can get an outcome immediately, and then they can use that either to get a job or to get into an MBA or something, right? Or
Right.
maybe get a recommendation, etc., which was something I felt I didn't excite me that much. I was more excited about, I was working with boilers and I was working with different machineries and everything. And the first thing that struck me was that, hey, I come from mechanical engineering and incidentally got a very excellent grade in fluid mechanics, but none of the equations or none of the things that I learned really I couldn't apply them in real life. And I saw that, hey, what's I can't. If you remember those days, we used to solve Navier-Stokes equation,
Yeah.
and and I realized that I can't apply Navier-Stokes equation over here. And my job was essentially to optimize, steam production and steam utilization in the factory. But the problem where I got stuck was that I can't measure steam pressure accurately. So every time I would measure something, I would see the upstream pressure is lower than the downstream pressure, and I got really confused as to how can this be possible? How is steam flowing, right? So, so that was like the first time I realized that, and people and everyone faced these problems. The way they handled it was very different than what, I looked at things in a different way. That's what sort of made me realize that, hey, I think I'm probably a misfit.
Okay. That's good to know. So ITC made you realize you're different. Now, okay, now related to that, okay. Now I want to kind of understand as you look at your career now, was there a point where you made a choice, okay? Where you made a choice, like a distinctive choice that you remember. Again, being the misfit you are, or the person you think you're different from others, that really made a huge impact in the long run. That seemed very weird at the point, different at the point, unique at the point, and maybe people even discouraged you to do that, and you did it.
Well, I think. I mean, I don't know how I have been able to do that. At least I have been able to remain a misfit for 15 years of professional corporate life. So I have did it in multiple times. But I think one thing that definitely comes to my mind is that I think that was back in 2012, probably, or 2013 is, I mean, that was the time when everyone would, after 3, 4 years of work would be looking at getting a MBA or some higher educational degree, etc., and, transform
Hmm.
the career and all of that. But I think I had a, because of who I am and the way I think, I had a very different point of view that, I realized that the sort of the, very academic way of learning things, and I read a very nice article recently which said that there are two forms of learning. First, you observe and then you learn, and the other thing is that you learn and then you observe. So
Hmm.
I sort of prefer always to, sort of get an in on hands-on thing, right? So I observe things, and then if somebody tells me, and then I learn through the process more. And
Hmm.
I didn't but because of peer pressure and everything, I ended up applying to a few colleges here and there, and I got an admission in London School of Economics. I got an admission in HEC Paris, and
Okay.
then also there were a couple of macro factors which influenced my decision. That there were some issues going on in Europe, and I spoke to people and figured out that, hey, landing a job would be difficult. This, that, the optional training period duration has come down from 1 year to 2 months, and so on and so forth, and all of those things.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think I could have taken a call and went abroad. But for me, I realized that eventually, what I want to do is something on my own. Eventually, what I want to do is, have, build something, more, which I want to build rather than, just going on, and working for some big corporates. And, so I eventually ended up, staying back in India and joining a very small startup because, and decision point was that startup. And I have good memories of building things from scratch over there, and a lot of tools that I built, I and things that I did. So I think that was one instance when which I think had a very pivotal change, because if I had pursued that path, then I think I would be completely different place right now. But I decided
Hmm.
to stay back in India and develop my analytical skills, my certain type of skills, and that kind of sort of paved me into more into the technical side of things, into building products and building tools. And I got last 10 years I think I've been doing that.
Amazing, amazing. So now you have to tell me a funny comment or funny, yeah, basically comment somebody passed at your decision to stay back and not go to LSE, for example. Do you remember anything?
No, I didn't discuss it with a lot of people, but I think people, I mean, were nice to me and didn't say anything
Okay.
on my face. But I think my parents, definitely my father said that, I think, you are wasting your life, and you're not even going to an IIM now. Now you are not even pursuing a master's degree. So I think he thought that, I mean, in a very traditional Indian way, that I would probably just not be able to even get married. No girl would choose me. So that was probably the first reaction that my parents had, and they kind of a little bit gave up on me that this guy is crazy, and we don't know what will happen to him. Outside
Okay.
of that, I think. I mean, my friends, I think, were supportive. I mean, at least the people around me, and I think that I'm very lucky. I think some of the most accommodating and some of the most, I think, even though I mean, our peer has a lot of people who are at the same point of time very fiercely competitive, and they do follow certain things in a certain way. But the reverse is also true. I found a lot of people with different ideas and different things that they're doing in our peer circle, right? In
Yeah.
both college and otherwise. So I think people were pretty supportive, and that's where I didn't really feel that I'm doing something very different. Uh,
Oh,
so
okay.
so it was overall, I think, nothing very particular that someone said something. Yeah.
Okay. You did get married eventually, so I'm guessing your parents are happy now. So,
Yeah, I think that was the single thing. It was sort of a, so it was, I think, mark of success or something that,
okay. Excellent. Okay. Now, I want to ask you. about a choice you made that worked against you. Because what happens obviously is when you think differently, you end up making a lot of choices that you don't know too much about. I'm sure there must have been some choice you made that worked against you and led to you failing at something. And how did you come out of that?
Yeah, I think one thing which I have felt again, I think one of the things that I've sort of not did well in life. So I'll tell you, I think where I suck is I I never had a very long-term goal or a very long-term objective of, that I want to do something like this and this is what I want to do. So
Hmm.
as a result of that, I think what happened was I, I realized that, okay, I enjoy problem solving or I do I like building certain things, but I never associated that with a very clear purpose in my life or a very long-term objective. As a
Like
result
for
of this,
example, you mean to say like a doctor knows this is what they have to do their entire life, or even
so
corporate. In corporate, people know that this is the ladder they have to
yeah, so for
get
example,
onto. And
it could be that that let's say I want to be the CEO in a certain company, or I want
hmm.
to be let's say the best machine learning engineer, or I want to be I want to build this product and I want to just get exposure to this thing, or I want to learn about this technology and I want to be the best in that technology. So
Ah, okay.
I sort of sucked at that because I think what where I got overwhelmed was that I think the world in general is very dynamic, and things keep on changing and changing,
Yeah.
and the way I have approached life is just keep on sort of moving with the changing world and changing times.
Yeah.
Uh, but at the same point of time, that has I think affected me also. Is one such instance is that there was a point in my life when I was in OLX, and I was leading analytics, and I had a lot of technical understanding. So there was a cross section or a point or a juncture where either I had an option to get into more into the business side of things, or needed to get into the more technical side of things, right?
Hmm.
And somehow, although I enjoy technical stuff, I decided to move into the product management or the business side of things, and more into the business sales and product management kind of side, versus
Hmm.
deeper into the technical side of things, which is more into data science or machine learning and other things, right?
Hmm.
And I think that decision probably was not very well thought through for myself, given the
Hmm.
skill sets that I have, and given the different dynamics that the market has, and who would have imagined, like, if I was deep in data science now, and now how Gen AI happened,
Hmm.
everything would have happened. I think there was a lot of possibilities that I could have benefited both as a professional and also as a leader, if I were continuing that path now. But fundamentally, when I think of it, I think it is because I did not have a very clear long-term objective, and I kept on switching from different one thing to the other within the technology space. But that's one of my sort of at least feelings that I think to achieve great things in life, probably one has to be a little more sure, or very, sort of have a focus that, hey, I want to do this, and hence
Hmm.
I'm doing this. And now, let's say, because Gen AI is doing good, if I get into Gen AI, then again, something 2 years down the line, something else will come. And, I
Hmm.
again sort of jump into that bandwagon. So I think that, we've learned about this back in probably school, that, it's being a master of all versus, having a specialization. So
Yeah.
that is where I suck today, I think, and that's one of the things that I've made. I think personally, I feel I've made a sort of a little bit of a wrong decision.
Hmm. Okay, got it. Next one. This is a tricky one, and this need not necessarily be career. Okay, now the next one can be anything from your life. Okay, what do you think is your biggest success in life until now?
I think one good thing is that I built good relationships with people, uh,
Hmm.
be at work, be at school, be at I don't know, college also. I think. I have had been lucky to have built very good relationships with people and long lasting relationships with people. I think now that I am 35 plus and aging towards 40, I think this is one of the most I think good things that I have been able to do, and
Hmm.
to have very very good long lasting relationships with people, and some of them are very close friends, some of them are good friends, and some of them are professional friends. But this is, I would say, this would qualify as one of the, I think, biggest successes that I have been able to achieve in my life.
Hmm. Okay. That's good to know. And the next one is the opposite of that. What do you think is the biggest failure you experienced in life, and how did you come out of it?
Well, I think biggest failure, well, one of the things which I can remember is that I think back, I would say that IIT, I mean, getting admission into IIT was, I think, a great achievement. But I think at least the first three, four, I mean, I would probably say the period within IIT, I think, I completely, I would say I messed up. I really
You
didn't
mean
know.
academically?
Not academically. I think I was just confused as to what I should be doing, right? And I pursued different things, couldn't figure out anything, and
Hmm.
I mean, if you look even at my CGPA, I mean, there were two consecutive semesters in which I got a 9 pointer, and the
Hmm.
next two semesters I got very low 7 pointers. So
Hmm.
I was kind of in a very confused state, and I think, and I really couldn't understand what is that the next thing that I want to do in my life. And I was absorbing information. I came from a certain background. I got exposed to certain people, certain background, and I was kind of making a lot of absorption of information about different things and different perspectives. So in a way, to answer your question, I think I wasted my 4 years at IIT in a certain way that, if I had better clarity, if I had better self-discipline, if I had probably got, better guidance, I would say it was not just
Hmm.
myself. Uh, Probably I could have uh, you know, have had more direction, more, I would say, I would say a more clearer picture of what I want to do, and hence, doing certain things in a certain way. So
Hmm.
I think this was definitely one of the sort of, I would qualify it as one of the big failures in my sort of experience.
Hmm. But I must also mention that if you speak to, I'm sure you also speak to a lot of fresh graduates or college students now, their level of awareness today, self-confidence is another level. I mean, if you compare it to the time we went to college, we were, I mean, I would admit I was similar to you. I was also clueless in many ways. But today, the scenario seems to have changed totally with so much information available. So yeah, but I understand sort of where you're coming from.
No, no, I think, and even today, I mean, one of the things which I also realize, and I don't blame myself for it, is I think the internet and the availability of information is
Yeah.
tremendously more. And in our time, internet was purely entertainment and entertainment, right? Now,
Hmm.
but today, I mean, the internet has much more to give,
Yeah.
beyond just entertainment. And at that young age, when you get exposed to that level of information, and then you can build on it much more, and it compounds, right? And
Yeah.
what I did with internet was I used to play games and I used to watch movies, and uh, yeah, it helped me in a certain way. I would not say nothing helped, but there was not enough information about many other things. So today, a few months back, I was talking to a lot of young people about how they manage their wealth, or how they want to manage their wealth, because I was
Hmm.
advising somebody on a startup idea about wealth tech. And I was astonished at the level of awareness. In fact, people in their 20s I found to be more aware than people in the late 30s.
Hmm.
So, so I think the internet and the information explosion which has happened has also worked favorably for people who are, I would say, either more curious or more disciplined. So
Yeah.
it works both ways.
Yeah. And just to put this in perspective for our listeners, okay, so Oliver and I went to college sometime in the late 2000s where there were no smartphones, there was no 2G internet. Our internet was only on our PC. And do you remember what speeds, download speeds used to get? I mean, I can't remember now, but movies that we're talking about used to be on the local network, not from the internet. That used to take like a full night or maybe a day to download
Yeah,
a movie.
I think
So
maybe
that's how it was.
it
And
was
then I remember, like, even I remember to apply, like, let's say somebody wants to apply to universities abroad. Um, yes, you had websites, yes, you had applications online, and you had the facilities, but it was nowhere as close to where it is today, right? In terms of the information availability, in terms of just like having access to the right tools. We were kind of like shooting in the dark a lot of the times.
yeah. I
So
mean,
yeah,
I think, I mean, we were just at that, few batches. I think I could see a stark difference between people graduating 4 years after we graduated. So I think we graduated somewhere in 2009. So between 9 to 13, I think India went through a massive transformation. So,
yes,
right.
correct,
So I think pre 2008, 2009 was a different era altogether. And
correct, correct.
post 2009, 2010, and that is where you saw that those Flipkarts of the world coming out. You saw the
Yes.
Zomato's of the world coming out, and the entire digital landscape in India went through a massive transformation in a couple of years. And we were one of those generations who were caught in between those two that traditional.
Yeah. And if you think of it now, like just to again put this in perspective, right? When we graduated, the top jobs were all, let's say, I think it was some oil companies, it was banks, it was some like maybe there was, of course, the tech companies also, Microsoft, Yahoo, but they never hired like anybody apart from computer scientists. So it was that. And I remember 4 years later, all the top recruiters were like all the tech companies we hear of right now, right? Right from your Flipkarts to Amazons to all the big tech or e-commerce companies. So yeah, there was that big shift that happened.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, we were actually one of the batches who were caught in that transition, right?
Yeah,
So most people who were a couple of years senior to us, or at least even 1 or 2 years senior to us, were either getting into finance and management jobs,
yeah,
and people who were 3 years, junior to us, they were definitely getting into tech, and we were like caught in between. Like we didn't know.
yeah,
We were like, do we need to get into management? Do we need to get into tech? And what do we sort of do? Right. So I think,
yeah,
yeah, but yeah, I think it
yeah.
was funny, yeah, but yeah.
Yep. Okay. Excellent. So that's now a nice segue into the next segment, Olive. So which I call shorts. Okay. So these are questions where you have to give, these will have a yes or no, agree, disagree kind of component to it. So you have to tell me what you think and explain in one line, not more than that, not too long an explanation, because there's a few questions. Okay. So I'll start with the first one. Startups are better suited to innovate than large companies. Agree or disagree?
Agree. Startups are more action focused, and they take less time to make decisions. So innovation is a lot about iteration, and
Hmm.
hence faster decision making in startups make them more amenable to innovation.
Okay. Excellent. Next one. Generally speaking, fresh graduates are better off starting their careers at large companies than at startups. Agree or disagree?
I think I would say agree. I think
Okay.
fresh graduates probably are better off starting in a large organization, and get to understand the dynamics, and they get the time to sort of absorb the huge shift of life from a completely very different type of a lifestyle. So
Hmm.
to a very different type of lifestyle where you sort of earn money, etc., and everything. So in my opinion, I think that if the transition is slightly slow, then it is easier for people to sort of transition into. But yeah, I think the gap is narrowing quite a bit now.
Hmm. Okay. Yep. Good. The next one, this is kind of related to what you do at Better Place also, because you help workforce kind of, right from recruitment to transitioning them into the workplace. India is one of the countries where the impact of AI taking over jobs would be minimal compared to the rest of the world.
Mm,
Agree
I
or
I
disagree?
would I would disagree to some extent. I would disagree. I think. I think the shift of and the impact of AI that I see today, I think it will definitely take away some jobs.
Hmm.
But at the same point of time, because how India is positioned and how I think Indians are, there will also be a lot of net new addition of jobs. So I mean,
Hmm.
my head, I think I don't know what is the net new going to be. Is it going to be, X jobs taken away, minus and plus of new addition of jobs? So what will the delta look like? Um,
Hmm.
but some jobs is definitely going to, sort of, go through certain phase out, and certain new type of jobs would come out.
Okay. All right. Next one, because you kind of advise startups and founders, and you've seen quite a few over the years. Generally speaking, startups should focus on building a revenue funded business and not long term investor funding based ones. Agree or disagree?
I would personally agree with that. So I think revenue funded businesses are the best ones to build.
Hmm.
It's very difficult to build at the same point of time. But beyond a certain stage, I think the startup should, beyond a seed or a series A level, the startup should try to become, self-sustaining. Initially, I think there are certain costs which are very difficult. So whether you take it from angel investors or you put in your own money, that's a different choice. But I think completely VC funded growth, I have seen that some many a times to be very negative, and in fact it sort of puts the startup in a very tricky position that they need to grow too fast, which is
Hmm.
not possible given the market situation.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So if there's any startup founders or people thinking of starting up, this is good advice from Olive. Okay. Next one. Generally speaking, do you think a startup founder is a misfit? And misfit by the definition we have for this podcast.
Yeah, I think George Bernard Shaw said something very interesting, and I think I always relate to it a lot. That I mean, I mean a reasonable. I may not quote exactly the same words he said, but I
Hmm.
remember the philosophy is that I mean, a reasonable man would always, argue and not do anything about things, because
Hmm.
doing something is actually doing the unreasonable thing. So he said that the progress of mankind actually depends on the unreasonable men. So,
Hmm.
so from that definition, if I borrow his thought, I think, I mean, if somebody is a startup founder or entrepreneur or somebody wants to be successful, I think they need to think differently. They need to be unreasonable at a certain point of their life and in their thoughts, which would then help them to fight against the incumbent. So I think it's a very not a always a necessary condition, but a good condition to have. Misfit is
Okay.
better positioned to be successful as an entrepreneur.
All right. The next one. Spend time building a business rather than investing money into doing an MBA. Agree or disagree?
Agree. Well, honestly, I think I mean, I come from the frame of mind that, you learn real things when you do something. So it's not just, I have nothing against MBA, okay? I mean, if somebody wants to build a car also, I would not suggest that you learn automobile engineering. I would,
Hmm.
I would say that, you try to build a car, right?
Hmm.
So if you want to build a business, then if you want to do something, you just do it, right? I mean, you want to sell to 100 people, go and sell 100 to 100 people.
Hmm.
You can't read about selling and then go and sell. I
Hmm.
I don't think I think the real world is way more complex, and it's like even with physics, for example, right? So I would just, maybe I don't know, I'm maybe taking a little more time, but even physics is not applicable in real life. You have to, when you try to use physics, then you will see that, oh, okay, so you have to consider the surface has friction, the surface,
Yeah.
there is air resistance, there is so and so much and so much more. So I had a tough time in class 9 and 10 solving physics problems. Because I could get confused that, hey, what happens to air resistance? But then the teacher would say that you have to neglect that. And I was like, if I neglect that, then how is this physics?
This is not real. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I will ignore the fact that I am an MBA for this for a few minutes, but yeah. Okay, next one. Who you marry is probably the most important decision one takes in life. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think it is definitely. I would agree. I think I would agree than disagree. Yeah, I think, and one of the reasons is while I mean it is still debatable. It is whether it is the single most important, but it is definitely the top three most important reasons, or top three more important decisions that you will take in your life. And
Hmm.
simple reason for that being it's like it's essentially choosing a permanent sort of a roommate in a certain way. Now, I mean, obviously, we have the liberty in today's world, and as always, to decide to, move away. But generally, if we, have to stick to it, then the life revolves a lot around, the family and the extended family, and both the individuals, right? So in today's world, it has definitely become more difficult to balance the individual ambitions and the collective good. So I think if we generally marry and you need to have a sustainable marriage or any sort of relationship, one has to prioritize the collective good over the individual aspirations. So and
Hmm.
and if the partner on the other hand, is very supportive, then you can you get the liberty to experiment more, and hence choosing that right person becomes very critical, right? Whether that person
Hmm.
is supportive or not supportive.
All right. The next one. The time you spend on things you do outside of work is what makes you the person you are, not just the work you do. Agree or disagree?
Agree. Yeah, I think, see, we at the end of the day, we are a sum total of the work we do, the experiences that we have, and how the time we spend, right? I mean, that's a mathematical reality. So we spend 8-10 hours, 12 hours at work. Even then, we have 10-12 more hours to our lives, right? And then we have weekends, we have holidays, etc. So eventually, as an individual, I think we are we are the sum total of those experiences, what we choose to do with the time, and what we want to do. And eventually, that shows up as an individual, in terms of even it has an impact on the personal life, it has an impact on the professional life. And the more important thing is, in today's world, how things are moving so fast. So what I
Hmm.
was doing 10 years back, what I'm going to do 10 years from now, what I'm doing currently, I don't think they're going to be same. So
Hmm.
so how you sort of utilize the time that you have, and constantly reinvent yourself, if not ups.
Hmm.
I would not say upskilling is the right word, because I think skill is a very different thing, but it's about a little.
Staying in tune with the times, I guess.
Yeah, in tune with
Yeah.
the times, and also a little bit of reinventing
Relevant.
yourself,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That's what I've seen as is becoming much more important today than maybe 30 years back, when my dad, what he did when he was at 35 and what he did at 45 was very same. Uh,
Hmm.
but I think when I'm 45, I would be doing something different. So what you do with the time that you have will sort of dictate in a large way, that what you would be doing at 45 or what I would be doing at 45. So yeah.
The next one, okay. Reading is the most important quality or skill that distinguishes the amazing from the not so amazing. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think so. I think I agree. I think so. The way I look at things is I value experiences, and over the last few years, I have started valuing other people's experiences also quite a bit. Uh,
Hmm.
and reading, or any kind of format, helps us distill a lot of other people's experiences in a very simplified way, and sometimes distill thoughts of people who have spent decades doing something. So that, I think, is invaluable for people who want to do amazing things. I think it doesn't affect you as an individual to live a normal life even if you don't read. I mean, we can all go through life in a certain way, but if you want to do something which is, something spectacular, or do you want to do something very unique, then, harping on to the experiences, and, harnessing the power of other people's experiences is super critical. And that is where I think reading is a tremendous habit.
Okay, excellent. Now, the next set of questions are the toughest ones. Okay, these are called quirky shots, and I'm going
Ah,
to put you on the spot. and you answer very carefully, okay, whatever you're going to say, because it's going to have very long lasting impact. The first one: people who come from left leaning states or grew up or come from left leaning states are more intellectual than the rest. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Agree. Let's see how many people are going to hate us after this. But well, in
But
our defense, India itself was left leaning till like what, 90s, no, late 80s.
yeah,
So
India is still not very capitalistic as a state, although I think last 5, 6 years, I think we have been a little too capitalistic. But yeah, I think India has always been a little socialist as a country.
the second one, this is about the city you grew up in, Kolkata. Kolkata is the city that resembles London the most in the world, more than even Birmingham or any other city in the UK.
Not it's not aesthetically, but maybe ideologically, yes.
I was going for the aesthetics because now you have like Big Ben in Kolkata. You have all the like so-called landmarks of London in
No,
Kolkata.
we like to believe that we I think there would still be people in Calcutta who believe that it's I think if you are not in London, then it is better to be in Calcutta. So,
Okay.
but I think but now it has become glaringly different. I think Kolkata is a very nice city to live in, but at the same point of time, I think it is just I think economically almost few decades behind where some of the other metros in India have moved forward.
All right. Now the next contentious one, okay? 90s Hindi music or Bollywood songs are better than the songs that come out today or the songs that came out in the 70s or 80s, even like better than R.D. Burman, Kishore Kumar songs.
For sure, I don't have any doubt. I think I mean those are the best songs that ever created by humanity. So I don't think even Jane AI would be able to match this.
Yeah, I think before people start thinking we're insane, I think I'll end the quirky shots. I'll
Yeah,
come back to the last two questions I have for you. Okay.
yeah.
So actually three more. So the first one is, can you tell me one book and one movie that have inspired you?
I mean, there are so many differently, good books, but I'll name two of them which had very profound impact when I was growing up. And one such book was called Catcher in the Rye by J.D.
Yeah,
Salinger. I
yeah.
that that had a very interesting impact to me because I was just going to residential college like IITs, and I read that book, and it helped me sail through emotionally, leaving the city, leaving the family, leaving everything aside, and how to take on life, I think, right? So that had a very profound impact, and made me much more mature as an individual. So that's one.
Mm,
Secondly, I think I was very deeply influenced by a book by Tagore called Gitanjali, which is also incidentally the book for which he got the Nobel Prize in Literature. So I find this book to be an amazing sort of collection of wisdom, and I think Tagore did a good thing by. I mean, a lot of the ideas he borrowed from Western sort of philosophy, right? I could see, traces of, the British philosophy. You can see the German philosophers. You can see a lot of different ideas coming from Russian philosophers, even to some extent American philosophy. But all of these things he distilled into a nice collection of poems and a nice collection, a very, very, 100-page sort of a small collection of poems. And then he coupled that with, the Hindu philosophy, the Sufi philosophy, and he sort of made it so easy to consume. So I had a great time understanding and just reading the book. It anytime I would read it, I would feel very relaxed and very humbled, by everything that exists in the world today, and how small I am as a person. So these two books that I definitely sort of I would say are great reads, or were great reads for myself at least.
okay. And movie?
Movie, so there are, I would say, a couple of them which I sort of relate to very closely. One is, one is there's a movie called I think Kalashnikov or AK-47. So it shows the life of the Russian inventor. So it's about that inventor uh, who
Hmm.
who built the Kalash AK-47, and
Hmm.
and and the most amazing thing again, as I come from product management, and I like building things, and fundamentally as an engineer, right? Not just about product manager, but the the grit and the passion to build something which is something extremely useful and very I would say innovative. Beyond that, I think one of the most profound movies which I have been influenced by, I would say, is The Matrix. I think
Hmm.
all the three series, right? So, I mean, when I watched it for the first time, I think I was just completely taken aback, and I couldn't fathom that. I mean, there are other people in this world also who are thinking about life like this, or I
Hmm.
feel like I am probably a loner, or I'm somebody which is like crazy, or I could not relate to people. But I think when you watch these movies, read these books, I think the best thing which happens to you, or at least to me, which happened was I would feel a lot less lonelier than I was. I
Hmm.
feel that there are so many interesting people in this world that I need to meet and that I need to interact with. There is an ocean of information and activity which is happening out there. So yeah, these two
Hmm.
movies come to my mind.
Okay. My last question for you, Olive. Being a misfit, what is your personal yardstick for success in life? How do you measure your success in life?
Well, I think I mean, if I am able to positively impact lives of people, and the more lives that I impact positively is,
Hmm.
I would say, the more successful I am. And so that's my yardstick.
That was amazing, Olive. It was nice chatting with you as always. I think this was just like it almost felt like we're catching up over coffee at some cafe, like we do once in a while. Yeah, thanks for taking the time out and keep doing what you're doing. I think all the best, and I'll catch you again at some point in time. But I'm sure all the people who listen to this show are going to take away a lot of things from the stuff you've spoken about on this show today. So yeah, and for the listeners, I will share Olive's LinkedIn profile on the show notes. So if you're interested in seeing, looking at his background, connecting with him, please feel free to go ahead and do that.
Thank you, Siddharth. Nice talking to you as always, and happy to share my views. And thank you for giving me this forum to speak. And hopefully, my experiences, impact one or two more people, and that would really make me happy.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thanks,
Thank you so much.
everyone. Thanks, Oliver. All right. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So that was today's episode. Before I wrap up, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, I'd like to ask for your help in spreading the word about the podcast. If you think there's someone in your life who might enjoy listening to the Magnificent Misfits podcast, please consider sharing it with them. Also, if you're active on social media, we'd love for you to give us a shout out and tag us at MN Podcast Show. That's MN Podcast Show. Thank you and see you soon.